Hello, Sam Switchtrack here with View, and in this episode, Little Railroad II/2 would like to talk about track and planning. Now, first of all, we'd like to mention that we don't advocate any particular track system or locomotive control system. What we're doing is showing how we have fun with trains. So let's first talk about track work, and before that, of course, thanking all of our viewers and especially our subscribers. Our track laying enterprise is fully underway. It's actually about 90% complete. It is entirely based on the previous layout. The actual track layout is entirely based on the previous layout. We reinstalled these raised ground level pieces. They were very helpful in aligning the track. For assembling the track, we have found it useful to use a rubber mallet and the needle nose pliers. The needle nose pliers are to crimp the ends of this receiving track here so that the pins form a good contact and also won't pull apart. After we do that, it's usually harder to put the track together, but then we take our rubber mallet and just tap the section in place, like so. The needle nose pliers is also good for removing pins from the track. Sometimes it's necessary to do that, so you use the cutting part of the needle nose on the pin itself and then just lever it out, like so. With this track system, you have to consider the switch machine. Like in this case, it would be great if we can have all these tracks run together here, but with the switch machine there, it's not possible to do that. There is some flexibility. You can switch the machine to the other side of the switch track. However, yeah, it is a problem, but just have to cope with it. One other aspect of the tin plate track is you can make any length you want with a good hacksaw. And like I've mentioned before in the previous videos, the reason we stay with the tin plate track is this rubber roadbed, which is a sectional rubber roadbed which matches the track sections. Or of course you can cut it to fit a shorter track section. Okay, let's take a look at the planning that is the basis for this little railroad. The first item for discussion is it's going to be an MTH Protosound 1 based operation. That includes equivalent QSI systems like II.2 or QS3000, which were made back, I think, in 2000, something like that, or late 1990s to 2000. All locos will have BCR capacitors, no batteries. That works great. And no locomotives are going to have battery switches. We do have some that had battery switches, but we've since reworked them with later versions of Protosound 1. It'll be block running, which is really insulated track sections, and that'll be controlled with 3-position block switches, which have an A throttle and often a B throttle position. There'll be 16 blocks. Now it's a rail junction based theme for modeling as well as operation, and that's facilitated with this 6 switch track arrangement. Okay, the 6 switch track arrangement, which I like to call it, is basically an outside loop with 6 switches to interconnect to the inside and provide 2 sets of reversing loops here. Now, this gives a lot of flexibility for operation, such as if a train is approaching this way, it can go around and come back the same way it was heading from, or it can go back on this track or this track. Now similarly, this one here can come back either on this way or this way. And the same thing with this track. So you can see it gives a lot of flexibility for switching and operation. And that's the basis for this layout. Moving right along, there'll be lots of signals on here simulating a junction. Now, the signals will indicate position of upcoming switch tracks, with red for straight and green for the curved direction, setting the turnout to the curved direction. So as we run the layout, we'll run it from the signals instead of the switch lights or anything that came with the switches. We actually take all them out. And all signals will have to be viewable from the operator chair. Some switch tracks will actually have 3 different indications because they're going to be behind where the operator sits, and you want to be able to anyway, it facilitates operation. Let's just put it that way for now. The track is the tin plate track with rubber roadbed, no II.2 curves, and minimal II.2. And in designing not this particular layout but the previous one, it was very helpful to use sectional track planning software. This layout is just the previous one that's extended. Have a 3-track parallel area for just because it looks great to have trains parked on 3 tracks or operating over 3 tracks. 2 dead-end sidings, and we're going to pay particular attention to uncoupler track placement during construction of this layout. And that includes not putting them near curves and having them viewable. In the last layout we had one that was behind a set of buildings and we never used it, so we have to take that into consideration. For scenery, it's going to be street level view based for observing trains and actual scenery. And it's like a O-gauge rail fan standing on the board. Now, of course, the above view, looking like you're a person standing above the layout, is going to be important as well, but the focus is going to be on street level viewing. The scenery will be easy to change. Real rocks will be used, and the table is built strong enough to support my weight plus rocks. There'll be no glue or plaster because we like to change things at will, and we may use some modeling clay to round off the stream bed edges, but that's about it. Everything else will be easily moved, and the ground foam will be used for bushes and trees and so forth. Everything is going to be O scale, and the O scale is defined as 1:48. We'll probably have ranges of vehicles and trains and everything else between 1:50 and 1:46. And the modeling error is mid-70s, and depending on what vehicles and trains are put on it, it can appear anywhere from 1965 to 1985. And there'll be storage available under the table for all train boxes and train bins. We use the train bins to store trains so we can change them out fast. The layout is probably going to hold about 40 cars and 6 locomotives, something like that. The area available for the layout is 19 foot 2 inches times 11 foot 0 inches. Of course, that brings forth other possible layout arrangements. We decided for a bunch of reasons to just use the previous layout and just extend it. And we think it's going to work out just great. The previous layout was 15 foot times about 10 foot 9, but the one part of the U is shorter. And if you want more information on the planning, you can see our related video, O-Scale, 3-Rail, Little Railroad, Chapter 1, Planning. And that video was made after the railroad was built, so it shows more what the layout's about. Now, let's take a look at the completed track layout, and we'll discuss some of the features described in the planning items. So here is the completed track layout. The 6 switch tracks that make up the heart of our switching operation are this one, that one, there's one over there, another one is over here, and here, and over there. This one here is like a parallel track for it. We usually use this track in here for train storage. Here is the 3-track parallel area. It's great for viewing operating trains as well as leaving trains sitting on there. We'd like to discuss this curve here. It's made of a combination of II.2, II.54, then it goes into II.42, back to II.54, and II.72. Now, since we like to watch our trains at street level, it's nice to see it come out of this curve and go into the straight instead of from an II.42 section. So, yeah, it adds some elegance to the curve, and it widens the diameter by 6 inches. So instead of using an II.42, you end up with something like II.48, doing it this way. You can also combine II.72 with II.54 to make the 2 curves run together. Like in this case, this outside section here is all II.72. And the inside section here goes from II.72, then there's 2 sections of II.54, then a section of II.72. We could have placed this switch down here further, and it would have given us a longer block section there and some more operating flexibility, but it would have taken too much of a bite out of the scenery in this section of the layout. Plus, it's really nice to watch the trains come and take this S-curve here, then continue around and continue to curve around this way. So yeah, we decided to keep it the way it was from the previous layout. We want to say that it's sure great to be sitting back in this operator chair at the control location, knowing that this layout is going to be fully operational again soon. So see you next time on Charon View when we talk about wiring. Have a great day.